everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today I am going to be sharing 11 summer thriller recommendations. All of these have either come out or are coming out between June and August of this summer. I realized some of these I read so long ago and covered in wrap-ups last December, in January, February, some more recent as well. But I realized that many of you might miss some of these excellent summer thriller reads, and this is the time usually of the beach read, even if you can't go to the beach though. But it's still a summer tradition to have fast-paced, soapy, sun-soaked beach reads, so I am sharing 11 that I have read that I think are very good bets for your summer thriller entertainment. I will also, of course, link below to the wrap-ups these were originally featured in, which will have longer reviews of each of these books, all spoiler-free. This video is also spoiler-free, because I'm gonna move through these pretty top line and pretty quick. The first one is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This one came out on June 2nd and is actually a Reese's book club pick, so this might have already been on your radar. And this one is isolation, wedding on an island. Everyone has a secret and there's a killer. Fun. Very soapy, multi-POV, they're trapped by a storm. You get perspectives from the bride, the wedding planner, the younger sister of the bride, the plus one who is the wife of the bride's best friend, as well as the best man. And it's all building up and jumping back and forth to a body being discovered during the party, but you don't know who and you don't know why. And this is one that definitely delivered some soapy goodness that I flew through really fast, and I definitely recommend it if you kind of like multi-POV, secrets in the past, and the isolation trope mixed with the high stakes of a wedding. Next is The Girls' Weekend by Jodie Garman, and this came out on June 9. This is the one that I read longest ago and have been talking about for a while. This is about 5 friends who were besties in college, but for various very fun, soapy, and dramatic reasons have grown apart over the years, but they're coming back together because one of them is pregnant. But the main character through whose POV the story is told, I mean, it's rough. The woman hosting the weekend at her fabulous Pacific Northwest mansion is married to the man that the main character was in love with in college. The main character was an aspiring writer, and her rival Sadie, the one hosting, she's the one that wrote the best-selling international made into a blockbuster movie children's series, and so there's a ton of tension going in. And then the mansion is kind of located in the middle of nowhere, isolation tropes for the win, and then of course, something terrible happens to Sadie, and everyone is a suspect, including the main character, because she has a massive blank space where the night before should be. So as a reader, it's that kind of layering of every single person definitely has a motive. It's not even actually clear what happened to Sadie and kind of her own shadiness, and it builds and it builds and it builds. I mean, that's kind of redundant, isn't that every thriller? But it's the layering of kind of like, what is going on? How terrible are all of these people really? What are their secrets and who did what? I highly, highly recommend this one if you like toxic friendships and kind of examining the wounds of the past and the present and kind of building tension on top of that. This one was excellent for that. And it just feels summery because, you know, they go kayaking at one point and there's a caretaker who's in a teepee for some reason, and it's very much like languid summer weekend with the girls, but you know, with horrible things happening. Next is The Half-Sister by Sandy Jones, and this one came out on June 16th. This is more of a kind of domestic, thrillery, soapy book. It doesn't have like specific summer vibes other than it's very fast-paced and it's not set in winter. And this one, if you can't tell, is about a half-sister. It's dual POV from 2 opposing sisters, and a third woman, Jess, shows up claiming to be the love child that their father had 20 plus years ago, but he's gone now, and everyone is suspicious of everyone else. It brings up all sorts of questions about their childhood and their memories and their different alliances within the family, and of course whether or not this mysterious half-sister who has appeared is telling the truth. I recommend it if you are pretty well read in what I call British domestic suspense. I find a lot of the ones that make it over here for us to read kind of go on that. It's a lot of family secrets and family dramas, and it definitely gets really, really emotional and has some good twists and turns. Next is The Last Flight by Julie Clark, which came out on June 23rd. I originally described this one, it's kind of upmarket women's fiction, but it's still a thriller. It has a very strong suspense thread, but it has kind of the emotional and character and writing hooks of women's fiction. It is about two women, so it's dual POV, who meet in an airport when both of their lives are falling apart, and they make the fateful decision to switch tickets. One gets on a flight to, I believe it was Jamaica, and the other ends up on a flight to Oakland. The one who was on the flight to Oakland, she is fleeing her abusive husband, who is a very powerful senator. And the woman she switches with, well, Claire's about to get a crash course in who exactly Ava is, because Ava's plane goes down, i.e. the plane that Claire was supposed to go on. And Claire realizes, slotting into Ava's life in the San Francisco Bay Area, that Ava had some secrets. What the dual POV ends up being is Claire in the present, living this false life, hiding from her husband, trying to figure out who Ava was, because she could potentially now be in danger. People are watching her, things are really kind of shady in the house, things that she finds hidden. And the other POV is Ava in the past. So the reader is finding out about Ava's past, in many cases before Claire figures stuff out. And Ava's timeline is barreling forward to the moment when they switched tickets, because the lingering question is, maybe Ava didn't even get on that flight. Because of the battered women's angle, I think that's why it felt a little women's fiction-y to me in a good way. I cared deeply about both of the women, and it has a real gut punch of an ending. So if you want kind of a women's fiction-y, more languid summer suspense read, this is a really good one. Next is The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. This also came out on June 23rd. This one kind of has like a soupy, creepy southern town vibe, summer vibes, about a woman who was on the run from her past, but in a very interesting way. She had a notorious childhood. She was like a girl in the well. She got lost in a storm drain. It launched this national media circus, especially when she was found. She became very famous as the girl from Widow Hills, but ultimately it ended up ruining her life. She got a lot of negative attention as well, and her mom wasn't the best mom. Long story short, she has now reinvented herself, changed her name, and is working as a hospital administrator in a sleepy southern town. She's bought a house, but then she starts sleepwalking again, and she's scared because sleepwalking is what got her lost in the first point and could mean that something is wrong with her. And then she sleepwalks right into a dead body. And it brings up all sorts of questions. What did she do while she was sleepwalking? What really happened to her when she was 7? Because she's blocked all of it out. And if the man who died is connected to her past, what does that mean? What ghosts is this going to unearth? And can she really escape her past? This one is great for kind of sweaty nights when the crickets are going outside. I mean, I don't get that anymore in California, but having lived in the South, like I felt those like southern summer vibes, which I think does make it an ideal summer read. I'd actually say all of Megan Miranda's books are basically perfect summer reads because they have that kind of like height of summer, like drowsy summer, but with an edge vibe. Next is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This one came out on June 30th. This one is like haunted house, childhood secrets vibes. A lot of these actually have childhood secrets vibes, but also has kind of that height of summer creepy house vibe going on. It is about a girl. When she was 5, her parents lived in this haunted house and they fled in the middle of the night, and her dad wrote a best-selling, very famous book about this haunting that they experienced, and she was the central character of this haunting. She remembers nothing and blames her dad for basically ruining her life because it made her famous in a very uncomfortable way, and she hates her dad for lying because she's like, none of that was real, none of that happened. But then he passes away and she inherits the house, and first of all she's like, wait, why did you keep this haunted house that ruined our lives? but he did. So she decides to let go of the past by going and doing what she does best. She flips houses. She's gonna fix up the house and sell it. And she moves in to fix it up, and creepy stuff starts happening, and Maggie has to start parsing how much of her father's book maybe was real. It is also dual POV between Maggie in the current time, and it's got one of my favorite tropes, book within a book. You also get to read her dad's book, moving chronologically through his book from the beginning of moving into the house up to the alleged haunting, and it all kind of bounces off each other and builds to a big finish. I recommend this one if you liked The Haunting of Hill House. It definitely has Haunting of Hill House vibes, but with a very different kind of direction that it goes in, but it has that summer haunted house feel. Next is The Safe Place by Anna Downs, out on July 14, and the summer vibe here is a fantastic villa in the south of France. Lots of swimming pools and hot days with cool drinks. And this one is about Emily, an aspiring actress who's very down on her luck and gets the offer of a lifetime to go to the south of France and live in this fantastic estate and be the personal assistant slash fix-it girl to Nina, who is the wife of Scott, who was formerly Emily's boss. We'll get to that. And yeah, Scott just needs someone to help out his wife Nina, who's really struggling to fix up the house that they bought while also caring for their young daughter. So Emily swans off to France, but of course immediately things are creepy and weird. It has kind of like south of France rich people but gothic vibes. Basically, she's not allowed to go into the family house. She kind of hears weird things. The daughter is quite strange. She doesn't speak. And also, it's just kind of strange that Scott lives in London and Nina lives in France full time, and when do they even see each other? But also, why did Scott hire her? It's actually dual POV. Emily doesn't wonder this as much as she really should. Emily is kind of like the poor lamb led to slaughter POV character, because you as the reader know that Scott has an ulterior motive sending her off to this fabulous house in France to help his wife. And it's kind of a slow build, so as I mentioned, it's got that south of France villa summer vibe, slow build to a fever pitch ending of what on earth is going on in this family and in this house. Similarly, with the fantastic vacation in Europe vibes is The Weekend Away by Sarah Alderson, which is out on July 23rd. This is about two friends, friends in college who have kind of grown apart because one of them just had a baby and it's her first chance to go away and have a real kind of adult-only girls trip, and they go to Lisbon in Portugal, and her old friend, who was always the party hard friend, well, she encourages her to party hard, and their first night staying in an Airbnb, they get really drunk. They take men home, and when Orla wakes up, her bestie Kate is missing. She becomes convinced that something has happened to her because she doesn't actually remember what happens after they left the bar last night. Surely those men did something to Kate, so she goes to the police. They don't believe her, and desperate, she ends up going to their Uber driver from the night before for help to try to piece together their missing night, and he acts as her translator, and they run around Lisbon trying to piece things together, and it starts to become clear that things weren't all they seemed with Kate, and things aren't all they seem in Lisbon, and it spirals, as it does in these sorts of books. So it has a really good kind of like girlfriends going to a fancy city summer vibe. And it's very much just like The Girls' Weekend. It's got that toxic friendship vibe. So if that's the kind of vibe that you like to get in a book, this, has an excellent toxic friendship. Secrets from the past, things that, characters won't admit to themselves, that kind of stuff. And next is The Wife Who Knew Too Much by Michelle Campbell. This one is out on July 28th. More estates on the ocean with clear blue swimming pools and rich people being ridiculous. I think that's a good summer theme and vibe, and this one goes hard. So this one is dual POV in a kind of creative way, because one of the POVs is Nina, another Nina, go figure, who is the rich heiress who says that if something happens to her and she dies, her husband and his new girlfriend did it, and lo and behold, Nina mysteriously drowns in a swimming pool. And who is the other woman? Tabitha. So we get Tabitha's POV of her former love from when she was 17. They were star-crossed lovers and it didn't end well, and he comes back into her life, and against her better judgment, she starts an affair. But then someone starts to stalk her, and is she in danger? And then his wife dies. I'm not going to spoil where it goes from there because it's actually one of my favorite things about the book. It's not like it's a shocking twist, but it's kind of a direction that the book goes in that really kind of deepens the suspense vibe. It's got that vibe of kind of the outsider, the poor character who throws herself into the life of these rich, sociopathic people where you don't know who to trust. Every single character, even Nina herself in her POV, you don't know how much you can trust of what people are saying and observing about other people. You even ask yourself, how much can you really trust Tabitha and her judgment? And it is set basically in the Hamptons in the summer in July, so it's got that rich summer beach town vibe. Also out on July 28th is His and Hers by Alice Feeney. I loved this book. I've been so excited for it to come out. And this one is good if you like sleepy British village, but where there's some terrible people with secrets and, well, they start ending up dead. And is there a serial killer? And the main POVs are his and hers. An ex-couple who suffered the tragedy of losing their young child. So now they're divorced, but they get thrown into this thing together. She's a journalist desperately trying to recover her career. And also she's got issues with alcoholism. And he is a grizzled detective who's still trying to get over his grief for his child, but also that he still loves his ex-wife, but she's maybe involved in this serial killing that's going on because it's her former friends who are turning up dead. So they're in this sleepy British town and everyone's a suspect. Everyone's also a little bit terrible, but I really like those vibes of you can't trust everyone, and seriously, there's a ritualistic serial killer. The murders are pretty bonkers. So I love those vibes. It's like a British village summer murder vibe. And last but certainly not least, I mean, this is one of my favorite thriller authors, is The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This one is out August 11, and we're going back to a beach town with have and have-nots, which this is either a theme of the books I pick up or these books overwhelmingly come out in summer. I think it's a little bit of both. And this one I would describe as, it's a rough one, honestly, because it's like Me Too with podcasting. It's like Serial for Me Too. And it's actually one of my favorite books so far that was very clearly inspired by Serial. In this case, it is a small town in North Carolina. A golden boy Olympic-bound swimmer has allegedly raped a girl. I mean, that's the journalistic term for it, but you as the reader know that he's super guilty. And it examines the way that towns and communities will tear themselves apart over the subject of rape and rape culture and not believing women. Rachel is our main character in the present. She is your podcast host, and she's gone down to this town in North Carolina to cover this rape trial as it happens, as a kind of way of giving her third season a new angle. Instead of covering a cold case, she's covering a current court trial, and means to explore rape culture for her listeners and challenge them to be in the jury box. At the same time, she's receiving cryptic notes from a woman named Hannah who is begging for her help. 25 years ago, her sister died mysteriously in the same town, and Hannah is convinced that she was murdered, but everyone says it was a suicide, and they've been gaslighting and minimizing her ever since. But she really wants Rachel to help her. In her notes to Rachel, she tells her story of that summer in the early 90s when her beautiful older sister Jenny died. And because of the theme, I think you can guess that rape is also kind of involved in that past story and toxic people in the town. And it plays with the past and the present and small town secrets. And you as the reader are going, who are the boys in the past in terms of the adults in the present? I loved that aspect of the read because I was like, inevitably, someone's parents in the present are probably the boys who did that to her sister. And you're going back and forth between them and trying to piece together these different threads. This one is definitely tricky. If you were triggered at all by rape culture and those topics, it's probably not going to be a comfortable read for you, but if you like social thrillers of this nature, the summer beachy parts of it are slightly horrific, but it's still, I guess it counts as a summer beachy book. It definitely kind of has a mood. I actually think it's perfect for late August, and I highly encourage you to pick it up when it comes out on August 11. I think, much like last year, this Megan Golden book is going to end up being one of my favorite reads of the year. So those are 11 summer thriller reads that you might want to pick up. I hope one of these has sparked for you as a book you might want to read, or even all of them. They're all kind of different and have different vibes. I mean, they're all things I enjoy reading, obviously, but hopefully there's a few in there that you can pick up. Let me know down below in the comments, what are some of your thriller read finds for this summer? I'm sure that there's books I haven't picked up yet. And honestly, in this strange time, I'm finding myself doing a ton of escape reading. So never have I more needed those kind of beachy escape reads, even though I cannot leave my house. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I will do more kind of theme wrap-up videos with book recommendations, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week and bookish content 2 to 3 times a month. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and happy reading.